There is a palpable sense of dread that washes over a political landscape when the very individuals relied upon for unwavering loyalty suddenly transform into relentless inquisitors. Picture a suffocatingly crowded federal chamber bathed in the unforgiving glare of media cameras and populated by legislators who absolutely refuse to yield. At the epicenter of this crucible sat Kash Patel, the newly appointed steward of the nation's foremost investigative apparatus, who found himself utterly trapped in a scenario no one could have anticipated. He was subjected to intense interrogation regarding a monumental executive choice that sent violent tremors throughout the political establishment of Washington. His dismissal of no fewer than 12 specialized operatives from an elite counterintelligence division dedicated to Iranian operations. Watch the full video to get a complete grasp of the situation before diving into this detailed analysis.
We invaded Iran. Did you know we were going to launch an invasion?
We can get into those details in a classified setting, but I work with my colleagues across the spectrum here to give me advance warning so that we can reinforce.
Was it 2 days, 3 days, a month?
It was sometime before that, sir.
Sometime before that. So you had not. With that knowledge, why did you fire at least a dozen agents in Counterintelligence Unit 12 that specializes in Iran counterintelligence?
As I said earlier, Congressman, I don't work on timelines when these terminations occur. They're internal investigations conducted by the careers at the FBI that highlight unethical or inappropriate conduct, and it's up to me to make the decision.
People you fired, those 12 people, they were experts on Iran, were they not?
I don't believe so.
They worked in counterintelligence, did they not?
I'm taking you at your word, sir. I'm not familiar with every
You're the
single
chief
word.
director. I'm not. You should know the answer. You fired the people. Where did they work?
People were terminated for violating their ethical obligations and the high standards.
Was the ethical violations that they dealt with the case of the classified documents that were found at the bathroom in Mar-a-Lago? Was that the ethical? You had a question from Dr. Jackson about the shutdown we're in now with Homeland Security, and I believe you said that this would be harmful to America because of the threat from Iran. Is that correct? Do I recall that correctly?
Generally, yes, sir.
How many days before we invaded Iran did you know we were going to launch an invasion?
We can get into those details in a classified setting, but I work with my colleagues across the spectrum here to give me advance warning so that we can reinforce.
Was it 2 days, 3 days, a month?
It was sometime before that, sir.
Sometime before that. So you had not. With that knowledge, why did you fire at least a dozen agents in Counterintelligence Unit 12 that specializes in Iran counterintelligence, which makes us much less secure and safe with this war going on from Iranian attacks potentially against our country?
As I said earlier, Congressman, I don't work on timelines when these terminations occur. They're internal investigations conducted by the careers at the FBI that highlight unethical or inappropriate conduct, and it's up to me to make the decision. But our Iran Threats Mission Center has never been more resourced, as I've highlighted a 43% increase in counter-espionage arrests from Iran alone and 360 ongoing terrorism investigations with Iran-affiliated individuals.
And the people you fired, those 12 people, they were experts on Iran, were they not?
I don't believe so.
They worked in counterintelligence, did they not?
I'm taking you at your word, sir. I'm not familiar with every
You're the
single
chief
word.
director. I'm not. You should know the answer. You fired the people. Where did they work?
People were terminated for violating their ethical obligations and the high standards.
Was the ethical violations that they dealt with the case of the classified documents that were found at the bathroom in Mar-a-Lago, was that the ethical issue?
As I said earlier, all those matters are pending litigation, so I'm not going to comment on them.
Director Gabbard, are you familiar with CI-12?
I'm not, Congressman.
Okay. Let me ask you this question. In the intelligence community's unclassified annual threat assessment from last year, it said, quote, Iran's large conventional forces are capable of inflicting substantial damage to an attacker, executing regional strikes, and disrupting shipping, particularly energy supplies through the Strait of Hormuz. It seems the IC was entirely correct in its assessment about Iranian retaliation in the Strait. Did the IC's assessment about the Iranian capabilities in the Straits of Hormuz change in the past year?
No, Congressman.
Does Iran still have the capability to threaten shipping in the Straits of Hormuz with missiles, mines, and small boats?
Their capabilities have been largely degraded, but yes, they still have means to threaten passage through the Strait of Hormuz.
And how long can they keep the strait closed?
Based on current events, I'd have to get an updated assessment from the intelligence community on that.
Did you have an analysis of the impact of a war on global supply chains and the price of oil and gas?
I believe that assessment may have come from the Department of Treasury or Energy.
It didn't come through your office.
It came from their element within Department of Energy or Energy.
Do you know if the president was briefed on those assessments?
I believe so, but I can't confirm.
So if he was briefed on those assessments that was a problem and the Straits of Hormuz could be shut off and that's causing a great problem in the world's economy with oil prices going up to, I think, under $120 or something a barrel and an effect on all countries' economies, why would the president not have taken actions to strengthen defense around the Strait of Hormuz?
All I can say is that the president ultimately is responsible for making the decisions based on the totality of information and intelligence that he has available to him.
The intelligence that he has available to him, that's a scary thought. Does the IC know where Iran's enriched uranium is?
The IC has high confidence that we know where it is.
And can you tell us that in classified?
We can speak more about this topic in the classified setting.
Okay. Could it be, we have methods of destroying it?
This is a conversation for a closed setting, sir.
Do you have any idea what the purpose of the Marines being sent, the units that are being sent over there, is the idea that we will put troops with boots on the ground in Iran?
ODNI and the IC is not involved in the operational planning and movements of the Department of War assets.
Thank you. I'll be very honest with you. When you read us your original comments, it was kind of scary because of all the craziness that goes on in the world. I can't wait for the classified setting. Thank you.
The atmosphere shifted from tense to undeniably explosive when Patel was presented with a seemingly fundamental query: did the terminated personnel possess specialized expertise regarding Iran? His response, a hesitant, "I don't believe so," sent genuine shockwaves rippling across the chamber. This was not merely an awkward fumble. It was a profound vulnerability, prompting an immediate, chilling realization. If the commanding officer of the FBI is oblivious to the credentials of those he ousted, who is actually at the helm? The onslaught from the dais only accelerated. Representative Steve Cohen aggressively leaned into the microphone, persistently cornering Patel by clarifying that these operatives were deeply embedded in counterintelligence. When Patel casually replied that he was not familiar with their specific deployments, the phrasing hung in the air, echoing like an ominous siren warning of impending disaster. Cohen, visibly exasperated, fired back instantly, demanding to know how Patel could terminate employees without even knowing the department they operated within. This intense verbal sparring transcended mere partisan theatrics. It struck at the very heart of American national defense. During this exact time frame, the United States was navigating a precarious tightrope of escalating hostility with Iran. The intelligence community was inundated with alarming reports of imminent retaliation, severe vulnerabilities to international maritime shipping corridors, and the terrifying prospect of a catastrophic disruption to global energy supplies. Amidst this terrifying backdrop, the director of the FBI openly confessed his ignorance regarding the fundamental profiles of the seasoned specialists he had just purged. Yet for seasoned Washington insiders, this wasn't even the most deeply disturbing facet of the debacle. What truly horrified the intelligence community was the perilous timing of the purge, as the dismissals reportedly coincided precisely with the rollout of sensitive military preparations focused directly on the Iranian threat. In his defense, Patel deflected the criticism by framing the terminations as the result of internal ethical breaches and ongoing administrative probes. Defending his managerial process, the FBI director vehemently maintained that he does not dictate the schedule of these disciplinary actions, insisting that dedicated career bureaucrats meticulously conduct these evaluations before any final recommendations are pushed to his desk. However, the assembled lawmakers remained entirely unappeased, pushing aggressively to uncover if these alleged ethical infractions bore any connection to the highly publicized investigations concerning the mishandling of classified documents. Patel flatly stonewalled the inquiry, invoking the shield of active litigation to justify his silence. Naturally, this stubborn refusal to provide clarity merely poured gasoline on an already raging fire of public and political speculation, leaving observers to wonder if this was a standard disciplinary maneuver or a clandestine operation unfolding in the shadows. The narrative then took an even more dramatic turn when it was revealed that the dismissed operatives were key components of an exclusive, unofficial collective dubbed CI-12. As brought to light by the esteemed investigative journalist Carol Leonig, CI-12 was far from a run-of-the-mill administrative department. It functioned as a premier globally deployed espionage task force headquartered in the nation's capital. This elite squad was meticulously engineered to tackle labyrinthine counter-espionage threats originating outside the traditional adversarial spheres of Russia and China, directing a highly specialized laser-like focus on the Middle East, with Iran as its primary target. The CI-12 portfolio was incredibly sensitive, encompassing high-stakes investigations into the improper handling of classified state secrets, the neutralization of hostile foreign assets secretly operating within American borders, and the containment of convoluted, damaging intelligence leaks. To categorize this unit as disposable would be a monumental understatement. They were universally regarded as one of the sharpest, most indispensable instruments in the FBI's entire arsenal. As the grueling hearing progressed, the legislative spotlight broadened to encompass the wider geopolitical landscape. Intelligence experts were grilled on whether the Iranian regime retained the tactical capacity to choke off the Strait of Hormuz. The grim consensus was affirmative. While their operational capabilities might have suffered degradation, the existential threat to that choke point persisted unequivocally. The gravity of this threat cannot be overstated, given that this specific strait serves as one of the most vital and irreplaceable maritime arteries on the planet. Should it be blockaded, the cascading consequences would be apocalyptic. Crude oil valuations would skyrocket exponentially. International financial markets would violently destabilize, and global supply chains would instantaneously fracture under the unbearable strain. Amidst these terrifying projections, pressing questions were directed at the administration regarding whether the commander-in-chief had been comprehensively briefed on these specific vulnerability assessments. The responses were chillingly fragmented. While certain officials expressed a belief that the president was informed, others were completely unable to corroborate that assertion. This pervasive lack of certainty provided zero comfort. Rather, it exponentially magnified the terror that strategic coordination at the uppermost echelons of the federal government was suffering from severe fragmentation. Meanwhile, behind the fortified walls of the Bureau itself, multiple sources reported that a contagious wave of anxiety was rapidly paralyzing the workforce. Insiders suggested that personnel were anxiously anticipating an even broader wave of terminations within the decimated CI-12 division. While the agency's public relations apparatus frantically issued blanket denials suggesting their counterintelligence infrastructure remained robust and uncompromised, off-the-record conversations with deeply embedded insiders painted a vastly more grim reality. Rank-and-file agents were reportedly consumed by the fear that decades of painstakingly acquired, irreplaceable institutional knowledge were being recklessly discarded during a period of unprecedented global volatility. The delicate art of counter-espionage cannot simply be manufactured on a whim or restored overnight. It relies entirely on a complex tapestry of deeply entrenched human networks, nuanced linguistic fluency, profound cultural empathy, and unwavering mutual trust that takes countless years to forge. Eradicating these veteran operatives inevitably creates massive intelligence, blind spots, vulnerabilities that sophisticated foreign adversaries are practically guaranteed to exploit. It is this exact terrifying vulnerability that has left senior intelligence officials plagued by sleepless nights. Conversely, Director Patel forcefully attempted to construct a completely alternate reality during his testimony. He proudly presented a barrage of statistics illustrating a notable spike in counter-espionage apprehensions directly linked to Iranian operations, alongside hundreds of active counterterrorism probes involving Iranian proxies. From Patel's vantage point, the Bureau's dedicated hub for neutralizing Iranian threats had never enjoyed a greater influx of capital and operational resources. He firmly asserted that these robust enforcement metrics were the ultimate proof of institutional vitality rather than decay. However, his detractors were quick to systematically dismantle this statistical defense, astutely pointing out that raw numerical data rarely captures the complete, nuanced reality of modern intelligence warfare. The sheer volume of arrests, they argued, completely fails to accurately quantify the genuine strategic depth or the proactive intelligence gathering capabilities of the agency. Their primary anxiety stemmed from the terrifying projection of chaos and volatility emanating from the highest levels of leadership. In rigid, deeply hierarchical organizations like the FBI, where absolute precision is paramount, any hesitation or confusion at the executive level instantaneously sends destructive shockwaves down the chain of command. Furthermore, the overarching partisan shadow casting a pall over the proceedings was impossible to ignore. Kash Patel has historically been an incredibly polarizing entity within the Washington establishment. His loyalists revere him as a bold, uncompromising visionary who possesses the courage to actively dismantle corrupt, deeply entrenched bureaucratic orthodoxies. His fierce critics, conversely, categorize him as a reckless provocateur who executes aggressively destructive maneuvers without ever calculating the long-term institutional carnage he leaves in his wake. The explosive dialogue within the hearing room only served to pour gasoline on this already deeply entrenched ideological schism. To one faction of the audience, the grueling testimony showcased an unwavering patriot valiantly defending his ground against a vicious, coordinated partisan ambush. To the opposing camp, the spectacle laid bare a stunningly incompetent executive, woefully unequipped to logically justify his own operational directives. This deeply fractured interpretation serves as a perfect microcosm of the agonizing political polarization currently paralyzing the nation. Every administrative action is instantly filtered through a partisan lens, viewed as either a magnificent stroke of reformative genius or a catastrophic tyrannical overreach, completely dependent upon the political allegiance of the spectator. And looming ominously over this entire political theater was the undeniable presence of Donald Trump. Even without setting foot in the room, his influence was suffocatingly apparent. Given that Patel is universally recognized as a fiercely loyal satellite within Trump's political solar system, any administrative turbulence generated by the director instantaneously ricochets directly back toward the White House. The sensationalized media banners screaming that Trump was spiraling into a panic were less about actual physical franticness and significantly more focused on the devastating political optics generated by the catastrophe. When the individual tasked with safeguarding the nation's premier domestic intelligence service fundamentally struggles to articulate basic facts about his own specialized national security personnel, it instantly manufactures a massive, gaping political vulnerability. Political adversaries eagerly weaponize these missteps as incontrovertible proof of systemic administrative rot, while loyalist factions frantically deploy damage control protocols to artificially project an illusion of steadfast competence. But peeling back the layers of this immediate scandal reveals a far more profound existential dilemma regarding public faith. The Federal Bureau of Investigation holds a singularly powerful, nearly mythical status in the American consciousness. It executes its mandate largely hidden within the shadows, far removed from public scrutiny, yet the outcomes of its clandestine operations unequivocally dictate the safety, security, and sustained stability of the entire republic. When bureaucratic staffing adjustments within this secretive entity suddenly metastasize into glaring front-page media spectacles, it serves as a massive red flag signaling profound, unnatural institutional distress. The American populace is inevitably forced to question whether the foundational pillars of their government are being expertly piloted by impartial, dedicated professionals, or if they have been hijacked by actors driven by shifting hyper-partisan allegiances. This creeping, pervasive sense of institutional distrust possesses the horrifying potential to be just as catastrophically destabilizing as any external threat. Hostile foreign nations are not solely obsessing over America's military strength. They are intensely analyzing the nation's domestic political cohesion. They relentlessly probe the societal armor, aggressively searching for internal fractures to exploit. As the grueling public session finally drew to a close, one exhausted representative publicly lamented that the impending classified debriefing simply could not arrive rapidly enough. The unclassified portion of this explosive confrontation definitively left infinitely more questions than answers. The central mystery remained completely obscured. Were these highly controversial dismissals genuinely rooted in standard, unremarkable disciplinary protocols? Or did they darkly intersect with highly classified, phenomenally sensitive, ongoing intelligence probes in a manner that had not yet been fully explained? Government officials vehemently swore that the forthcoming closed-door sessions would definitively clarify the details. Unfortunately, by the time those promises were uttered, the public narrative had already taken shape. Digital clips highlighting Patel's disastrous "I'm not familiar" response were actively circulating widely across media platforms. Commentary exploded, and the catastrophic damage to the agency's perception was immediate. Nevertheless, it is crucial to recognize that terrible perception does not inherently equal reality. Government agencies frequently make personnel changes without long-term harm. Counterintelligence operations are layered and redundant by design. One unit's restructuring does not automatically dismantle national defense. Still, transparency matters. When leaders communicate clearly and confidently, they steady nerves. When they appear uncertain, they spark doubt. That distinction often determines whether a controversy fades quietly or grows into a defining episode. In the days following the hearing, debates intensified. Supporters emphasized Patel's emphasis on ethical accountability. They argued that enforcing high standards inside the Bureau strengthens credibility. Opponents countered that removing experienced counter-espionage agents during geopolitical tension was ill-timed at best. Both sides claimed to be defending national security. The truth may rest somewhere in the classified details not yet revealed. But until those details surface, speculation fills the vacuum, and speculation is powerful. It shapes markets, influences allies, and emboldens rivals. Iran, for example, closely monitors American political discourse. So what does this moment ultimately reveal? It highlights the fragile balance between decisive leadership and institutional continuity. Change can energize agencies, but abrupt disruption can unsettle them. It underscores the importance of preparedness when facing public scrutiny. Leaders must anticipate detailed questions and respond with precision. And it demonstrates how quickly a single exchange, just a few sentences under oath, can redefine a narrative. The story isn't finished. Classified briefings may clarify motives, further reporting may illuminate context, and additional hearings could shift the tone entirely. For now, what remains is an image. A director pressed about the people he fired, unable to provide immediate specifics, and lawmakers visibly alarmed. That image will linger in the public consciousness as viewers were left weighing competing claims. Is this a bold internal reform misunderstood by critics, or a miscalculation at a volatile moment? The answer may depend on information still behind closed doors, but the stakes are unmistakable. National security decisions demand clarity, confidence, and cohesion. Anything less invites scrutiny. If you found this breakdown helpful and want more deep dives into the moments shaping Washington right now, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that like button so you don't miss what comes next. Drop your thoughts in the comments below and stay tuned as we continue following every twist in this developing story.